world is already a pretty frightening place these days as we all try to dodge nukes, hurricanes and inflation, yet we humans continue to seek out more horror, and with Halloween around the corner, Reggie thought it'd be a good time to recommend to the Cockney Gamer Gang a terror-filled experience. The game must delight, it must fright, it must do all things to you in the night. No, it's not an R. Kelly simulator.
You're killing me, man!
Instead, it's Phasmophobia, a game that continues to top the charts as one of the scariest games you can buy right now. And don't be fooled either, people, because Phasmophobia is more than just cheap jump scares, whereby sound is arguably its most important feature of all. So grab yourself some popcorn, a cup of tea, and let Reggie explain all. Phasmophobia's official release came back in late 2020 when the world was in shitville and where bog roll was worth more than cocaine. It originally started out as a very successful early access title that dared to be different, which is simply this: could you create a horror game even when playing with other people? You see, video games have always looked at the horror genre as a solo experience, and rightly so when you consider some of the epic experiences to be had, such as the Dead Space series, the Amnesia collection or Alien Isolation. But the sheer genius of Phasmophobia is the fact that sharing the horror experience with others is actually more intense. So Phasmophobia picks you as a ghost hunter, and your job is to be a nosy little and explore locations such as a residential house, an asylum or a campsite, and then find evidence of paranormal activity. You do this by using unique tools that would put Home Depot to shame. Once you have enough evidence, you then denote what type of Casper ghost you think it is, and if proved correct, you get yourself a little pocket money to buy more tools for the future. Capitalism, people, it's lovely stuff. Missions can last anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes depending on the size of the map and indeed how difficult you have the settings. But here's the catch: this isn't the land of the free, people. God no, you are not invading these homes with weapons, and more so the tools that you are provided with, they're limited and you only have 3 slots to carry items, so it's going to require you to go back and forth between the danger zone of the ghost and the safety of your starting position, which is a lovely little truck. As a side note, I'm convinced the truck was used to ferry illegal immigrants at one point, given the fact that you're practically haunted wherever you go. The tools are varied. You have a flashlight, which frankly is a must as the game is so dark, and pretty much the only way to traverse an actual level is with some form of lighting. You can also carry a UV light in the hope of catching some ghost fingerprints, and no, the bed sheets will not show spunk.
Oh my god. Philip Seaman right there.
You can get a camcorder where you set it up in the suspected location like the pervert you are in the hope of catching some evidence, or you can place a ghostwriting book in the hope that Casper leaves you a lovely little message. All very spooky and Halloween-like, yes, and there are plenty more items to use, but there is one in particular that is rather fascinating, and that is the ghost box. Sound in any game is bloody important, but in a horror game like Phasmophobia, it is what makes it a standout feature. The ghost box lets you talk to the other side and question what the the little ghostly pricks want. However, there is more, because if you play this properly using the game audio and speaking to your mates and not use Discord like a little pussy, you'll find the ghosts can even pick up on voice interactions with each other after pissing off the ghost by asking them ridiculous questions like, are you French? Eventually a hunt occurs, and this is when the ghosts have had enough of your bullshit for the day and they go into hunt mode, locking all doors to the outside world. The bloody French, I say. At this point you can't run and only hide, so you quickly try and find yourself a little closet, and you dare not speak inside this closet with your mates about the bird you pulled at the pub the other night, because that little Casper he's going to come and hear you, and he's going to come and get you, and the jangly nerves is palpable as you hear the footsteps of the ghost approaching your location, and you and your mate hug each other ready for doom. It's just a glorious standout gaming moment that never gets old. And whilst that's an example of horror and suspense that builds slowly, there's also plenty of jump scares, usually in the form of ghost events. You might be rummaging around a kitchen trying to find evidence when suddenly the ghost will whisper in your ear or run across the room. And that's what I've got to say here, people, is if you can, play this game in headphone mode, because it really is gonna levitate that experience up to new levels. There are plenty of ghost events throughout, and all have their place to keep you on edge, and if the ghost catches you, he kills you off, where all you can do is watch your mates from the afterlife. However, you can now see the ghost, but your mates cannot hear or see you. proper perverted it is. So in all of this drama, can Phasmophobia be played solo? Yes, it absolutely can. But the question is, should you play it solo? No, absolutely not. You can tackle these tasks on your own, but apart from being trickier, it's actually more boring. By teaming up with 3 other mates, you'll be hard pressed to find a more funny, enjoyable, but also frightening game out there. You hear the screams from teammates as they get taken out by the ghost twat, and the genuine anxiety is there for all to witness. For those of you lucky enough to have a partner in crime, then this is a great gaming co-op experience. It can easily be done with 2 people. Phasmophobia is unique because it has the ability to create genuine experience every single time. It plays out slightly different on each mission, with ghosts doing different things and random events happening on the fly. Very few games provide this level of raw entertainment, which is why it has such a remarkable following and why so many YouTubers create funny moment showreels. It's another reason why for Halloween it's going to give you plenty of longevity. However, Phasmophobia does have its issues, and there is a glaring one for me. Once your group starts understanding and learning the ghost, you'll need to ramp up the difficulty to nightmare mode to have any sort of challenge. And if playing with a nerd group that really knows their stuff, they can almost guess the ghost based on how it hunts you. My recommendation is to try and play with others who are of at least a similar level, as it can and will ruin the game experience. Graphically, it's on the janky side, and whilst I would have said originally that was its charm, and in many ways it still is true today, I've noticed that with the continued updates, it's taking more power from my gaming rig on iSettings without giving me the payoff of a better looking game. The graphics are pretty basic, and character models remind me of a mannequin that hasn't done a shit in a while. The lighting isn't too bad, but for a game that practically exists in the dark, I would hope for a more better lighting system, especially this far into its life cycle. Flashlights have a bit of a harshness to them and don't provide the more subtle ambience from its outer cone that you would normally see in real life. It still looks nice, but given the concept of the game and what it sets out to do, you kind of feel there is more potential here. The ghosts do look frightening, even with their janky tone. It's worth noting the game can be played in VR too. My rig, however, it can't get a steady frame rate, and that's coming from an RTX 3080. I would expect the non-VR version to be totally flawless on ultra settings, but with each update it very much takes 2 steps forward and 1.5 steps back. So all in all, a mixed bag in that everything works and clicks together. It's just not going to turn heads, Exorcist style. Phasmophobia is a standout example of how horror games should utilise sound. What has been done so well here is not so much in the richness in ambient sounds, but more so in how they actually get executed. Phasmophobia knows when to play it quiet, it knows when to shut its bloody mouth, and it lets the fear do all the talking, and it knows when to ramp things up into a crescendo in a ghost hunt where the beating of your heart can be heard thumping away as if Michael Jackson himself is chasing you. It understands the impact that the sound of footprints can be had on your group, where silence quickly descends on the chatter, and it respects how the smallest of sounds, such as a photograph falling off a wall, a plate smashing to the ground, or a door creaking open, it can strike fear. There is no real musical score here, which is incredibly brave, but also the right thing to do, because Phasmophobia's fear, it stems from the masterclass execution in ambience. So that's Reggie's Halloween pick, and that's Phasmophobia, an absolutely horrifying and stupendously fun game to play. It has its problems here and there, in particular around its longevity once you become an expert, and yes, the graphics could do with a big kick up the backside. Its engineered soundscape, however, is first class, and one that amplifies the horrors that can be found within. Perhaps though the biggest horror of all is how this game can be had for a measly $13, a game that could easily sell for double, and you'd gladly pay it. For the price of a fish finger sandwich and a pint, it's quite literally a no-brainer, and even all these years after release, it still rules the Halloween picks. Until next time, love to you all, Reggie out.